Now, I assume you are Jen and Matthew. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. And the other third of you is Jason.
The other third of us is Jason for our trio project. Yes. Okay. Jason. And Jason sadly cannot be here right now.
Okay.
He just got off of like a pretty long tour that also ended and was extended for him by playing shows with us over the last weekend.
Right.
So he is currently like dealing with a bunch of stuff at his house that has been ignored for like 3 days.
That's stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, congratulations on the new album. It just came out last Friday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the formation of it and why it exists.
Well, we originally started. Matt's known Jason for a long time.
Right.
And I met him through Matt a few years ago. But we were making a tape for the label Garden Portal. I guess we were recording that like end of 2019. But instead of doing a duo release, we figured we would ask Jason, like he was going to record it for us anyways. So we asked him to sit in. And so, yeah, that's what turned into Beacon. We weren't sure if that would go great or not, like if people would really care, but it did end up taking off. So then we decided to record something else, which eventually turned into Lamplighter. And it was a little more focused. But yeah, that's basically why, because it just went well and we wanted to keep playing together.
During the pandemic, we didn't go anywhere outside of me having to work. Unfortunately,
and me too.
Yeah. And my little brother up in Cleveland decided to get married in the middle of all that, so we went up to Cleveland to go to his wedding. And Jason had not been, like, Jason's job is being the drummer for Cloud Nothing, so he had not left his house the entire time, basically. Sure. So we just stayed with him because I didn't want to like stay with our family because this is like pre-vaccine and all that stuff, and I wasn't trying to like mess with anything. And we hadn't gone anywhere or done anything, and Jason hadn't either. So we stayed with him, and then while we stayed with him is when we recorded Lamplighter, pretty much. Pretty much.
So you recorded in Cleveland, and my understanding was it's pretty much improvised. So how did the three of you work together in that situation? You just
turn in and plug in. Our last record, Beacon, which was the first one, that we had no idea what it was going to sound like or anything. That is 100% improvised, and that record is essentially the entirety of our session, from us, and everything is pretty much a first take improvised thing off of that, and it really turned out super well. We had no hopes or aspirations for it being good. It was just kind of
for fun.
Hang out with friends and an experiment that went pretty well. So for this one, we kind of pretty much did the same thing, but there was a little more discussion in advance of like, should the song be slow or should the song be fast? Like, what are we doing? As opposed to like Beacon, where there was just straight up, it was just he hit record and then we just played and that was it. And there is like a little studio trickery on one of the songs where I switched from acoustic to electric on the end of this one, but I mean, we could totally do that live, no problem. It just like was a thing where we recorded two separate things and then kind of put them together.
Yep. Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, so it's a pretty loose way of, just getting together, maybe some minimal discussion. I mean, the single June was obviously a little bit more composed, but it was more just like, well, here's a basic idea. But there might be variations to it, but we had but yeah, the rest of the album, it really is just like, well, like, do we play this one in C or D or what? And like roughly what type of shape do we want the piece to take? But sometimes not even going that far. And just talking about how to start off.
Cool. And of course, it's kind of interesting that there's a dulcimer is one of the three instruments. Usually your basic power tree is drums, guitars, and bass. So so that how does that alter? It must alter it amazingly as far as how you guys interact with each other because of the instrumentation. So do you have you had to find a place for the dulcimer within the musical context, so to speak?
I think so. And it's been really interesting. I mean, this is not the first it's not the first trio I've played in.
Right.
I think it's the third. Like kind of roughly within the umbrella of what we sound like. So I've had like 5 or 6 years to kind of figure out my relationship to other people and like an ensemble.
Yep.
And using the instrument in a non-traditional way. But yeah, I've definitely gotten more percussive. Like initially I was using a lot of like reverb and delay to try to like wash myself out.
Yeah.
And make it more of like a, like a textural, like almost synth like thing. But yeah, now I feel like I feel more comfortable with like melody and rhythm. But it's still, I feel like it's still like a supportive type role.
Gotcha.
But maybe in like a way where it's like the symbiosis and we're all kind of dependent on each other.
Right.
Which is cool.
Which leads me to my next question, Matthew. So your guitar playing, how does that alter or change depending on who you're playing with, especially with these two folks?
So with these two folks in particular, I'm the way that Jen and I play together is very bizarre, I think, and I can't think of many other people that have done a similar situation, kind of, we're like we're both kind of sort of like going like maximalist on two acoustic instruments to create like a sort of very like dense drone kind of situation, but that's still like maybe melodic at points.
Sure.
And with Jason, I mean, I've known Jason for a long time, and we've played in bands together for a while prior to me leaving Cleveland and going to Chicago, and then me leaving Chicago to come to Columbus, where I met Jen. And so Jason and I have like a pretty good understanding of what we do when we're playing, especially like in an improv situation.
Right.
And it's pretty easy for us to just be like, okay, yeah, let's do this thing without talking about it.
Yeah.
In the middle of the song. And Jen is like wonderful at that too. And we would have actually never even played together. I mean, I'm sure we would have eventually, but like right when I moved here, I was going to play a show up in Cleveland at Jason's house, because he has like a really kind of like crazy basement that he puts shows on in sometimes. And
sure.
It's usually more clearly like a not a lot of people show up to them, and it's a weirder kind of situation. But
yeah,
when I moved back to Ohio, I was going to play up there, and he was like, "Hey, have you played music with Jen yet?" And I had not, and I'm sure we would have at some point, but he kind of was like, this is like 1 or 2 days before the show,
right?
And he was like, "You should play with Jen." So we just did.
Well, and I feel like when you play, I don't know, when we play together and with Jason, like you seem to go for even more of like a textural and like dense sort of thing, rather than like when you're playing solo, because you're composing.
When I play solo, I'm generally going for more of like a melodic kind of like song-based structure situation. For like 90% of the time. And then I would say that like when Jen and I play together, or with the three of us playing together, I don't really think about that at all, other than I would like an entire piece to be cohesive.
Gotcha.
And not just be some kind of like total like meandering thing that like never has a start or a finish, and there's no peaks and valleys or anything like that.
Understood. Yeah.
And luckily, like playing with Jen and Jason, I do feel like like, I mean, we just played a couple shows out of town for the Lamplighter release, and we didn't play anything off of Lamplighter. We were just playing new improv stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really feel like it went well. And
right.
and the things that we did, like I kind of wish we recorded, because like they could have been like, you know, another record or something like
gotcha.
that.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that it's good to have in your back pocket anyway. Now, for folks who maybe haven't heard you yet, and we've touched on a couple of tracks, but I thought maybe the opening track is a thing called Rotations. So maybe we'll play a little bit of it underneath while we're talking, and the two of you can just kind of give me an idea of what's going on there with that one as things kind of kick off with the record.
Totally. I mean, from my recollection, I believe that was the first track that we recorded for like Lamplighter. Yeah, during that session.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's probably the closest to sounding like the previous record, Beacon, that we did.
Right.
So it was kind of like a warm-up in a way.
Yeah.
That was the first thing we had played together for, you know, almost a year at that point, because we hadn't seen him, you know, since before the pandemic, especially because throughout, you know, January and February 2020, we were off doing different things. He was on a tour with Cloud Nothings. We were going kind of through the Midwest for some shows. So, but yeah, and that immediately felt good. But we did want to like branch out. But yeah, that one's cool in that I guess, yeah, it is like, it's a nice bridge, I guess, between like what we were doing on Beacon, but showing that like we were already wanting to move in a different direction, which is the rest of the album.
There was like another one or two tracks that were kind of like that one that we had recorded during that session, but we felt like that was probably the best one.
Right.
And we didn't want to just have the record be that again.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of why like it gets weird like after that.
That's good. That's all right. And are there multiple versions of these 5 songs, or?
No, they're all one take.
I think there was an alternate version of June because I screwed up the timing on the one thing that I had an idea for ahead of time.
Right.
So technically, yeah, there is another version of that, but it's more like a crappy outtake. But yeah, I think everything else was just the first go.
We definitely did June a couple times because that was the one that was like closest to being composed, but it was me sitting down and being like, okay, we should probably write like a song that's not 10 minutes long.
Gotcha.
You and Jason like those pop songs, you know?
And so like I kind of just like sat on the spot, came up with like my guitar part, and I was like, it'll repeat twice, and then like that's it, you know, that's it. And then we recorded it maybe like a couple times, and then just took like the best one.
Cool. And is that how you work with other people as well, or is this kind of a unique thing between the 3 of you?
This band is definitely a unique thing between the 3 of us. I don't know.
Because even our writing process as a duo, or well, not writing, but you know, recording process as a duo feels different.
Right.
but yeah, like in past projects that have even been like I said, fairly under like the ambient drone folk umbrella, definitely different than the way that we approach it, the three of us, in a good way.
Yeah.
Like I really like the way this works.
And my solo stuff is like probably about, I would say like 90% composed. And I either record it myself or like I just finished a new record that won't be out until next year, but I had to go to Philadelphia and get it, and I recorded it with like, you know, a really good engineer.
Right.
And it sounds good, but it's very different from the process that Jen and I do, and very different, especially even more different from the process that Jen and Jason and I do. And Jason's like kind of the severe outlier in our trio situation because he's a very loud, like crazy drummer.
Right.
Like when he's playing with his main band, it's, you know, he's like Animal or something kind of. So him playing guitar like that to two acoustic instruments.
Drums.
Yeah, sorry, him playing drums. My bad.
You know.
I don't know. It's weird.
Well, and I mean, what he said about it, and he even said it the other night. He's like, yeah, it's just still so wild to me to have to play like so quietly.
Right.
Yeah, but him saying that he's playing quietly is
like,
still like louder than most drummers. Which,
but
is,
I mean,
which
but he's
funny.
in like a rock band, and like he has other improv. Like, you know, he has a duo with Dylan from Cloud Nothings, and it's a free jazz duo. Like Dylan's playing saxophone and Jason's playing drums, and like they do get a really good dynamic range, but obviously it's like a totally different thing, and it's generally as much louder.
Yep.
So
it sounds like a good little group of bubble of people that you've got working together and doing all this wild stuff together. And it's all
without a doubt. I mean, I am forever grateful to have like grown up and known these people for as long as that I have.
Right.
Yeah, and just the friends we have.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah.
Cool. It was nice to see something recorded in Cleveland for a change.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I feel like most of my stuff is recorded in Cleveland. Well, like
no, a lot here.
3 of our records are recorded in Cleveland.
That's pretty good.
I also am from Cleveland, and I have about 30,000 records that were recorded there prior to me leaving for Chicago, but those are all for different projects that I don't want to talk about. So,
fair enough. Well, Cleveland has a pretty cool backstory and some, you know.
Cleveland is a great town. It's very underrated. I don't want to say that it's good because all of my friends and family and everyone that is moving there currently that is making it more expensive are kind of ruining it, sort of.
A little gentrification going on.
Well, I mean, they're ruining it for my friends and family.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like, I hear you.
But it's happening, you know, in so many
places. That's
here.
everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
it's happening here in Columbus too.
I mean, you guys do kind of this droning kind of ambient sound, and it reminds me, I mean, makes me think now of like Per Ubu and Rockets from the Tomb and stuff like that. Is that stuff that you're familiar with? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked at a pretty legendary venue in Cleveland for a long time when I was very young, until I pretty much left. And I used to work with Steve, who played drums for Per Ubu.
Right.
And he's a wonderful person. But yeah, Per Ubu and the Mirrors and like all these crazy bands from Cleveland that are really underrated that no one really talks about. But they were every bit as good as anything from like the whole like CBGB era of like New York City with like television and talking heads and all that. That was all happening straight up at the same time in Cleveland.
It seemed like, because I'm from that era, and so I went down to CBGBs on a regular basis, and a lot of the bands that we thought were from New York were actually from like the Dead Boys and that, you know, they were.
Oh yeah, you know, that's all Cleveland.
Exactly. So there you go. Stuff was happening. Very good. Well, thanks for sharing all this with me, and I can't wait to hear your other record when it comes out next year now.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It should be spring, hopefully, I think. Right. And then we have another, we can't talk about this yet, but we have another like at least one record of trio material recorded.
Oh, good.
We haven't.
We don't even know what
we haven't even started mixing it, and we don't. It might be bad. I don't know, but we recorded it.
It isn't bad. It's just hasn't been mixed, and we haven't talked to anyone about plans for it. But so there's that, and like our last duo album came out towards the end of June, and I'm already like itching to
do another one.
Do
Very
something
good.
else.
Yeah, yeah. So does it feel like things are kind of back to normal in the States somewhat, whatever that is?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
All right.
No, it still feels crazy.
It's a nightmare here for sure.
Right.
Yeah, even like some of our pharmacies who have done COVID testing throughout, like CVS is like running out of vaccines now.
Really? CVS? Oh my God.
And like tests and it's, I mean, not all of them, but like, people are just getting to, I mean, a lot of it's because like kids have gone back to school.
Right.
But like, being under 12, like there are just so many new cases. It's wild. Yeah.
Alrighty.
So still a giant mess, but what's it like down there?
Well, it's kind of weird because we thought we had it all beat. We had, last year we were locked down for maybe a month, and we had a couple of cases and a couple of deaths, and we all locked down and everybody did their thing, and then we were done. And so we were living the high life. We were going to shows and blah, blah, blah. And then just about a month ago, one of the very things came and arrived on our shores, and we're just completely locked down again for a month. So and it's driving me crazy. I'm used to having all these conversations with folks like you guys, and I go, no, we're good, we're free and clear. I've been out of the house in a month now. It's nuts.
I kind of wish that would happen here, but honestly, it would never happen.
Well,
that's true. I mean, there are pluses and minuses. The amazing thing is, I mean, I'm right in the middle of Auckland, right in the city. I can look out the window, and there's just nothing out there, and it's been that way for weeks now.
That's very weird. Yeah.
Well, I hope it's effective again, and like, I don't know, hopefully, well, who knows? I'm just hoping that 2022 will maybe cut us like a little bit of a break.
That would be nice. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, we just got to roll with the flow, I guess. But at least it seems to be conducive for making music, so that's a plus. Yeah. There's been a lot of good new stuff to listen to. We're gonna be very busy in the next few years with all the stuff that everybody's been making while they've been locked up.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully, like I would love to go on a very, very long tour all over the world. That's
very good. Well, thank you guys. Have a great day. Thanks for taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
And when you come down to New Zealand, swing by and say hi.
Absolutely.
I would love nothing more than to come to New Zealand. Yeah. And if you ever see Mikey Young or any of the Dead Sea homies, please give them our love.
I will, definitely. Okay.